to Recovering Your Voice. My name's Bonnie.
And I'm Kathy.
And I'm Colette. Caroline's not joining us today. She's practicing self-care. She hasn't been feeling well and is taking time for her. It is an honor to introduce our guest and my new friend, Crystal Rishi. I have been following her on the Caprel community Facebook. I was so impressed with her heart and her genuine care for those that are marginalized behind Caprel. I'm kind of excited today because I get to interview Crystal in person. So we actually are going to have a coffee together and have table talk, just like having a neighbor, which quite frankly, she is. She just lives down the street from me. So love recovering your voice. I get to meet new friends, new neighbors, and learn about my community that I live in even a little bit more. We'll start off, Crystal, with a first question that all our co-hosts and I'm sure our audience want to know too. Hey, Crystal, the first thing we'd like to know is what got you interested in helping the marginalized?
I was coming home one day in my van and I was cold and feeling sorry for myself. I was complaining, to put it politely. Suddenly, I had a very overwhelming feeling of guilt about the fact that I was in a van for starts, which means I had means of transportation. Then the thought went to, I'm on my way home. I'm going somewhere where it's warm. I can take a shower. I can eat. I can sit on my couch. And I cried. I was emotional. I felt very guilty. I felt very ashamed of how I was complaining. And that kind of got me started with, well, there's a need. And so I went online on our local community page and I asked if there were any homeless and vulnerable people in our community. And I started to get messages of that there were, which I was surprised because I hadn't seen any really that I had noticed anyhow, or maybe chose not to notice at the time. I started to go look for them. And once I had found them, I stayed back, I stayed away, but I just took note of their location. And I went home and I spoke with Mike and I said, I need to do something. I need to do something. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible out there. So I started with making soup. And I made soup, lots of soup. And I started to approach these people. And I'm not going to say the fear wasn't there. The fear was definitely there. But I also felt that if I'm like everybody else who fears, that'll keep me from doing what I want to do. So I got up the courage and I walked up to the first location and I said, hello, hello. And somebody answered me. And I said, hi. And I introduced myself and they came out and said, I have some hot soup here for you. And they were much obliged. I mean, they were more than happy to accept the hot soup. And instead of just handing the soup and going away, I sat with them and I, just, hey, what's your name? What are you doing here? Are you from here? Just starting very basic conversation. And I didn't stay long because I didn't want to overwhelm anybody. And I moved on to the next spot. And that's how it started. I just started breaking bread with people and listening to their stories and allowing or them allowing me to be part of their journey. which was huge, because some of them, it took me 2 years even to get a proper name. And now it's like their family. They're just their family.
So how long have you been doing?
Well, in Capril, I've been doing this for 3 years. Prior to that, though, in my younger years, I used to take in street kids. So it started with street kids who are now grown adults, and it's kind of cool because I'll meet them in places where I don't expect to meet them, and they still tell me, you know, like, Chris, if you hadn't have taken me in, who knows, right? And then I fostered a few children that were in bad situations. And then because I have children of my own, they had friends who were troubled teens. And so I had a lot of kids come my way in the process, and I would help them get services and you know, reconnect with family and stuff, because they just needed a third point of view.
Man, I love your heart.
Crystal, did you have an upbringing that kind of instilled this into you? Like, I'm seeing a pattern, you know, with the children that you helped and fostering. What inside you gave you that compassion to notice this in people?
Well, my childhood wasn't the greatest. There was a lot of trauma as a child, and it was very easy for me to recognize when somebody else had trauma. It was to me, it was like very apparent, where other people wouldn't recognize, right? So and I mean, I didn't live a glorious life. Like, we weren't, you know, didn't have a lot of money and stuff like that. I was the teased child, you know, and stuff like that. So I really related to kids who didn't fit in, or children who came from broken families or abuse and stuff like that. I recognized it at a very young age. Even in my early teens, I recognized it in other people, and as young as 13, and was able to pull people into me at that age, and you know, tell them what helped me, or you know, what to focus on and stuff. So I don't know. It's been a very long time, and I think it is a lot to do with my life as a child and a teenager, and being that brat teen, and you know, the rebellious teen, and all for good reason, mind you, but just knowing where it could all lead to, and wanting to save somebody from going through that, right? So, yeah.
Krista, when you said pulling people into you, that I really believe that. I think when we've been through something like that ourselves, we recognize it in other people, but they recognize it in us as well.
Right.
So as much as you were reaching out to them, I'm sure they could reach back to you because they recognized that you could get them without judgment, and that you were a safe place. Yes. I really believe that. And because your heart is obviously very, very big, you're probably very welcoming, with no expectations, right? Just wanting to give what you have.
That's right. That's
so
right.
Bless your big heart.
Thank you.
Because I want to help, but I don't know if I could go there. I'm being honest.
All you need to do is be somebody who cares. You do need resilience from people, because they're used to the, you know, the snap a picture, I did something good.
Thank you for talking about that.
I don't do that.
Thank you.
There is no snapping pictures. There is none of that. There is no me online, look what I did. I don't believe in that. I don't believe that I need a hero biscuit to help somebody. You know what I mean? If you're going to help somebody, it's got to be pure. It's got to be from the heart. You know, it can't be for a photo shoot. And the thing is, when people do stuff like that, hey, look, I'm holding a bowl of of soup to somebody, they're just looking for the pat on the back, and then that's where it ends.
Yeah.
It ends right there.
Exactly.
With that photo.
Yeah. And doesn't give them dignity.
No.
Like,
no.
Wow. Yeah.
And a lot of them, and that's the reason why a lot of them will not accept help from just anybody, because they know it's they feel when it's insincere. You know what I mean? They feel when they're just trying to pat their own back. You know what I mean? They're very street smart. They're very smart people. You know what I mean?
Sure.
They've been around the block a few times. They know when fake is fake, right? So it's really hard to get in there.
Yes.
You know, it's hard. It's really hard to get in to meet these people and to know who they are genuinely.
I hear you.
It's hard.
And that's why I reached out to Crystal, because I had been following her for, well, at least over a year, Crystal. And I was watching her heart for her guys. That's what I call them, for her guys.
That's what I call them, my guys.
Her guys. And I saw that. I saw her heart's compassion, and I saw you very tactful of when people were trying to get the emphasis on themselves.
Yeah.
She did it really well, of just messaging me behind the scenes and we'll chat and stuff. I love that about you. So that's why I said, I know who I'd love to reach out to, because I see it as that you genuinely care for your guys.
When I reach out to the community, and I mean, our community knows what I do. So when I reach out and say, hey, everybody, the pantry's low, you know, I I get an awesome, absolutely awesome reception from our community. But there are a few that are always negative, or, you know, my tax dollars, this and that, and the whole enchilada. And instead of saying what I wish to say, I don't. I private message them and ask them to meet me for coffee. I say, let's talk about this. I don't leave it at that. There's no awareness unless you're talking about it. You know what I mean? There's no changing somebody's mind or given information if you're not willing to take the next step. And I've done it quite a few times where I've said, hey, you know, like, I will take your opinion, and I will share my opinion, and let's see where we could come together on this, right? Because there are so many misconceptions on why people are homeless. It's not a simple, they could get a job, or, you know, it's not simple like that. And people seem to think it's just that. It's just get a job, loser, you know. It's just not that.
Yeah, good.
It's not that.
I appreciate you saying that straight off the bat. It is not that.
No, because it has a lot to do with how they got there in the first place. Nobody's willing to hear the backstory to why they're there. They just assume that they're lazy, they don't want to do anything, that they chose to be there. I'm telling you, that is not the case. I'm not saying that there are selected few that choose to not want to be upstanding community members, I guess you'd say, but the high majority of people are there for a reason. And the reasons go beyond things you can imagine. You know, there are people like you and me that have gone, all of a sudden there's a divorce. Mm-hmm. One party gets everything. Mm-hmm. The next party's left with nothing. You know, it's regular, you know, Marys and Joes like us, you know what I mean? It's not just the bad kid or the troubled child, you know what I mean? There are so many different reasons that they are out there. So many. Loss of family, loss of affordable housing, loss of job, deaths. It goes on. It goes on. Trauma is a big one. Mental health is huge. And our system is broken in that retrospect, because with the mental health issues, and just the homeless community itself, not being able to afford telephones, for example, for a cell phone. If they get called up for housing, or something, if they're on the top of the list and they are not found in 24 hours, they get bumped back to the bottom. And when they show up and say, hey, we got a place for you, they have to drop everything. They are not allowed to, like, they could take what they could hold in their hands. So now they're debating, do I leave all my possessions, which are to us would be, you know what I mean, would be absolutely nothing, but to them mean everything. And they've got a matter of minutes to figure this out. And if not, if they don't go, take the ride, grab what they can, take the ride, they're bumped back down to the bottom. You know, and that's the problem with our system is there. If I tend to keep track of my guys because I have few, it's easier for me. The job that's out there for the bigger community of it, it's a lot more difficult. For me, I got eyes on my guys all the time, and I know that. And I put myself out there personally with the agencies that if something, doctor's appointments, whatever the case may be, they call my phone number. They send letters to my address so that I can make sure that they are helped. You know what I mean? But not everybody, that can't be expected of everybody. You know what I mean? It's a system where if you do not take the opportunity that minute, the opportunity is gone. There's just so many that the opportunity is gone for that one. That one's bumped to the bottom of the list and they just take the next person. And then, and I mean, it goes on from there. Then they get housing. Then they're left. There is no aftercare with this. And that is the biggest problem. And this is another huge thing is why people come re-homeless, because they get a place to stay and they're left alone in four walls with nothing but their own thoughts. And that could be more punishing than minus 40 degrees. You know, especially when, like I said, when it's mental health, trauma, sadness, grief, it's hard to be alone when you've had all the noise of the city, all the noise of the people, talking to your street friends every day, all day long, running into this one and that one. And then all of a sudden you're staring at four white walls, no TV, no internet, no cell phone, none of the creature comforts that we all have, just your thoughts. And a lot of times they'll turn back to the street because they can't handle that. They just can't. So again, it's an infinite loop.
Now you spoke of your guys. How many, like you said, you know, maybe Sudbury, it's too much to do that. And that you really oversee your guys. How many guys do you normally have that you're overseeing?
I was overseeing 6.
Okay.
Right now, I have one left that I have not housed. And that is because of mental health issues, that he is not housed. I do still give food support to 4 of them, because in order for them to stay where they are and to be able to afford where they are and not mess stuff up, it is to help them along the way with that. Like food support's a really big thing because if they have food, then they can have one of their creature comforts. You know what I mean? Which helps their life. It helps them ease back into the way things should go typically. I do have one gentleman that is far in the bush. He sees me once a month. I do a once a month drop to him, and the rest I see regularly, to help them out, because even with the food bank, it's just not enough because of our rental costs. Like literally, as a single male, you don't get any money with the government. You get it, you know, your shelter needs don't meet what the rent costs. So at the end of paying the rent, even if the rent's directly paid to the landlord, you're left with $6. What do you do with $6? Honestly, what do you do with that?
So when they do get placed in safe homes, I guess, do they just leave them like that, or do they mentor them? There's no mentoring?
No, no, there isn't. And it's housing is a process. It goes from street to bridge housing, what they call bridge housing, which means if you're high up on the list for any reason, being it could be because you have medical conditions or like severe mental illness or something, they'll put you in bridge housing, which is like they'll put you in a hotel until a place becomes available. Um, but that you have to be really high up there on their checklist. There's like 17 things, and if you ain't got them all, you're staying at the bottom of the list, right? So it's which again, it all goes back to there's just not enough housing. There's not enough affordable housing to take somebody with only 8 check marks. You know what I'm saying? It has to be like the full enchilada or forget it.
If they do, Crystal, get on, let's say they've won the lottery, they've got that housing. How hard is it for them then to get a job to support themselves and to get the needs that they require in their home and for their own well-being?
Materialistic stuff is very easy to acquire. We do have some fabulous places like St. Vincent de Paul. When somebody is housed for the first time, they will help with furnishings and housewares and stuff and set you up. But when it comes to um, counseling, psychiatric evaluations, you're on a list. You're on a list, and these lists are years long. They're not okay. I'll get to you in 30 days. They're years long, and by then, 9 times out of 10, it's too late. It's too late. They need support right away. They need to learn how to live again. They need to learn what it is to pay a bill, what it is to use a food bank. And I know that sounds strange, them being homeless and using a food bank shouldn't come as a big deal, but it does because now I've got a place. Oh, but if I go to the food bank, somebody's going to look at me in a different way. So they're trying to maintain this. I'm starting to become a upstanding citizen to I'm still needing help. So they struggle with that mentally in between. There's a gap there that they struggle with constantly.
And let's be honest, with the food bank, you do have to have ID, an address, a phone number, all of the things that is not available to them. So even if they went to a food bank, I'm not sure every food bank would receive them. I'm not saying some wouldn't.
Most won't.
Okay, thank you.
Most won't. I'll tell you, most won't without something with your address on it.
Yes.
Whether it's a bill, whatever. But I mean, you don't have a bill if you don't have an address.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So, and you can't go to Service Ontario and get your ID if you don't have something with an address. Yeah. If you don't have another form of ID. Now, if you have no ID and no address, you ain't get nothing. You ain't get nothing. Get a social insurance number. Most people, I mean, I do. I know my social insurance number, but not everybody does. You know what I mean? They can't just go fill out a paperwork with their social insurance number if they don't have the card. Well, if you don't have that ID, they just send you away. Come back when you have it. You know what I mean? And then the circle starts all over again.
So, Crystal, you're saying, and Colette, having volunteered at Food Bank, if you don't have an address and tick off all the right boxes, so who is feeding? Who is feeding these people? Like I heard St. Vincent de Paul. I remember I used to live there. I love that place.
That's a place you could just walk in and whatever they have there, you can take.
Yeah, whatever you need, whether you have an address or not.
That's right.
So who is feeding these people?
Me.
And who's making sure
and
they get medical care? People like you?
Kitchens and stuff, they will not ask for ID. They will ask just for a name. It could be simply just your first name. You can be John. They really don't care. It's just for numbers, so they know how many they're feeding, which is a great thing, because without stuff like that, nobody would be getting fed.
But let's be honest here, Krista. We don't have soup kitchens in Cape-Breton.
No, we don't have any here. But in Cape-Breton, we don't have anything. Not even, we don't even have a washroom facility.
Yeah.
Like a Johnny on the spot, nothing, which is, again, we take this kind of stuff for granted. You know, it's not easy using the bathroom when there's no bathroom at -40, you know, or -30. You know, there's just nothing here in Cape Breton. There's nothing. I mean, I have a plan in mind and I have a dream, but without money, there is no dream, right? So,
willing to share your dream on here?
My dream is to have a gated community for these people, and with 24-hour security, 24-hour nurse, and tiny homes.
Oh, cool.
And if I ever win it big, and you could mark my words, because this is on, this will happen. This will happen.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Let's touch on the myths. Let's debunk the myths and the misinformation. Are you willing to go there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You shared a story with me that caused your guys some real heartache. Okay. And we honor that, you know, we're sharing our story. So we'll not be saying names or stuff, but that doesn't matter. The story will still get across.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, there was a story aired on TV in regards to Cape Breton, that we had hundreds of homeless people in the bush here in Cape Breton. And the evening that aired, our community was overwhelmed with police, task force, helicopters, looking for encampments and locking the bridge up. And I was out feeding my guys at the time, and they were in total panic. So I brought them to a safe place to have their supper, and I sat for hours until they all left, and was able to tell them that they can go back to their camp, because they were terrified, absolutely terrified. And it caused a lot of panic in the community of Cape Breton. My messenger blew up like you wouldn't believe. Half of them were like, you know, actually, I'll say 3/4 of the community was like, oh my gosh, Crystal, we didn't know, we should be giving more, we should be helping more, which is a wonderful, wonderful feeling, that people were concerned that they weren't helping enough. But then there's the flip side of that, where look what you did. There, you know, you're helping, and that's why we have all these hundreds of people, and so on and so forth, right? So I had to talk to people about this problem, and it had to be resolved, and it was resolved, but not without sacrifice. I mean, for the next little while, my guys were scared. My guys were scared to get rolled in the middle of their sleep, or, you know, like people that don't agree with homeless people going and, you know, shaming them, or just being cruel, because people can be very cruel. You know, people will walk right up to an encampment and tear it down in front of their face. Like it's a cruel thing.
How?
Yeah. You don't belong here, get out of my community, you know, that kind of stuff. And it's sad. It's
Very.
just so sad.
How do you stay calm in a situation like that?
I'm not saying I stay calm, I just appear that way. I have great composure. Okay. I've learned over time to have great composure, but inside I'm losing it. Okay. I'm losing it. I'm angry. I'm upset. I'm sad. Every emotion goes through me in seconds. Like, just I can have every emotion in 3 milliseconds. But if I don't keep my composure, I'm no help to nobody. You know what I mean? I have to be the level head. I have to be the person that's going to console. I have to be the person that's going to take away the fear. Because if not, it just gets worse, right? So I have to. I mean, don't kid yourself. I go home and bawl like a baby. You know what I mean? Or I have bad dreams. It's not without consequence for sure, but um, they need somebody. You know what I mean? Like if I'm a basket case in front of a bunch of other basket cases, it doesn't. You know what I mean? It's not going to work. So somebody has to keep that level head.
So, Crystal, does it vary from summer to summer how many guys you have that you're looking over?
Yes. Okay. I find in the winter, my numbers will go lower because it seems that they try harder in the winter to house people or to give other outlets to people, or they will, some people will make amends in the winter with family and friends because the fear of freezing to death is worse than keeping your mouth shut. But come the warm weather, the numbers go up because now they can be outdoors and not fear freezing to death. They do choose to be outdoors in the spring when there is a issue with mental health a lot. It's a matter of staying away from people, dealing with their mental health on their own without making people think otherwise of them. It's easier to hide in the bush when it's warm rather than when it's cold, right? So my numbers do fluctuate quite a bit as the weather gets warmer. And it fluctuates in Cape-Breton mostly because of the drug use. Like in the city, our shelters, our overnight places, to some are very scary, especially if you're a non-addict and or a recovering addict. It's very hard to stay away from everything that is right in front of you if you use those facilities because it's right in your face all the time. So a lot will choose to come out to the bush to stay away from that, or to stay in the recovery that they work so hard for, or to keep their mental health that they've worked so hard for at a reasonable rate for themselves. The city is a very hard place to be in if you are trying to get on the right track, because the addiction rates are absolutely horrifying. And if you've passed that part or are not an addict at all, you do not want to be, you're scared. You're scared. You're scared to be around it. Like the ones who are recovering are scared to be around it because they don't want to relapse. The ones who've never had that problem are scared to be around it because it's scary. It's scary.
Wow. Sad that I know we're talking about housing issues and stuff, but it seems to me it's the acceptance that they need the most, because they're having the housing and they're leaving the housing because they're not being accepted in the community. Is that correct? Okay. So we have a long road ahead of us.
Oh, we do.
Okay.
The system is very broken.
Right.
Very, very broken. And there's a lot of big gaps, even when it comes to recovery programs and addiction programs. That touches personally with me because my stepdaughter is an addict and has been basically on the streets for 7 years. So not that she hasn't gone to programs, she goes to programs, but a 30-day program is not what they need. To talk about your problems here and there for 30 days and then given a notebook like this and sent on your way. If you got problems, write them in your book. And that's the end of the program. Even for detox, it's great. you can detox anybody, really. That's the simple part. But then you toss back into the street to the only thing you know. So then what happens? You don't know anybody who's not a drug addict. You don't know anybody who's not addicted. You can't just show up at somebody's house and they're going to accept you now and trust you now and think you're a changed person, because it takes a lot more than 30 days for somebody to change their opinion of you after you've done some not so nice things, or they've seen you in very vulnerable situations.
I hear you. So healing the inside of somebody is crucial
Very.
for success.
Very.
Okay, I'm hearing you. I can imagine that you have ways that you think would be more beneficial.
I do.
Would you like to share those? This is the place, girl.
Honestly, I have a 3-year program.
Okay, let's hear it.
And like, I really want to put it to paper. I'd really like to introduce it. But my plan, in a nutshell, I'll put it in a nutshell because there's a lot to it. But my plan would be, obviously, would be detox, medical detox, followed by living in a group setting, learning skills on how to live, cook, clean, hygiene, take care of yourself, yada, yada, yada. After that, I think it should be a step down program into maybe like I'm going to say halfway house situation. That's not quite what I mean, but somewhere where there's less people. So you're still learning how to live and adapt in a safe environment, all the while having your counseling, your life skills, your hygiene skills, all of that stuff necessary. From there, if you can get through that part of the program and doctor approval, you can be put into a singular housing. But with that has to come, they can't just be put there. My plan is that they would have to be there and somebody would visit them daily for a certain amount of time. And then after the counselor or whomever would be visiting them daily and feel that they can have a step down, they should be seeing them maybe every second day and step down until they've reached a healthy introduction back into society. Because this is where it's all broken. This is where it's all broken. You can't give somebody a 30-day program and throw them back on the street or throw them into an apartment. It doesn't work. It does not work. And they're more likely to reoffend. They're more likely to reuse. They're more likely to fall back into old habits. 21 days to change a habit, granted, but they have not just the habit of using, they have the habit of not taking care of their hygiene. They have the habit of not cooking. They have the habit of not paying bills. You got to do all of these habits individually. You can't be summed up in a 30-day program. It's just not, it's just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't work. Not that the problem's ever going to go away, but learning mechanisms on how to deal with it, or learning tools to deal with whatever emotion may arise, whether it be sadness or grief or anxiety. Like, anxiety is a big thing. It hinders so much. Like, I have high anxiety. Like, I puffed my cigarette real fast in the car before I came in here. You know what I mean? Like, even I got anxiety. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, yeah, anxiety is just a big thing. And people say, anxiety, you know, like, yeah, take a good look in the mirror, because I guarantee you everybody has anxiety. You know what I mean? Just some don't know how to deal with the anxiety. And I mean, it took me years of counseling my own self to learn how to deal with my anxiety, you know, and I'm normal, you know what I'm saying? Like, I say that loosely, but you know what I mean? Like, I don't have all these hiccups and all these problems, and I still struggle. So I can only imagine somebody who has all this other stuff going on, and the struggle it is for them. It's got to be immense. It's got to be absolutely horrifying. You know, you just feel like there's no hope. There's no hope.
Well, Crystal, even for myself, when I see homeless people, I have a sense of, I don't know, helplessness. Like, I've heard it said that more than anything, people want to be acknowledged and spoken to, not just passed by.
Right.
And there are a lot of myths out there. I grew up in a very dysfunctional home, and I know it's not as simple as get a job, smarten up, pull up your socks, change your attitude. And unfortunately, I think it's easier for a lot of people just to turn and walk away than to get involved. And I think some people think, I don't even think this is my question anymore, because as you've been talking, it's like, whoa, I don't know. I don't know if I could do what you're doing because the needs are so great. Like average families are struggling with paying their rent and their mortgage and food scarcity. I want to know um, where to begin. I guess that's what I like. Where can I begin to make a difference?
I do get this a lot when it comes to I'm barely making it myself. How can anything I do make a difference? Or I can't afford to help these people. And that's valid. That is totally valid because I mean, literally like there's so many people one paycheck away from being in their situation. You know what I mean? So my answer to that is it can be small. It can be small. It could be one can of soup. If you can't afford that, if you can afford your time, any volunteer hours, go to the soup kitchen. Go to the youth center. Go just volunteer your time. I also get I really want to help, but I don't know where to start. I get a lot of people they don't want the responsibility of the things like I do, or they can't dedicate that much time, right? Can you dedicate an hour every 2 weeks? They will gladly take that hour every 2 weeks. You know, that's a great way to start. Just get involved. Just get involved. It doesn't have to be money. It doesn't have to be soup. Your time, your patience, and even if you don't want to go to somewhere like a soup kitchen or a youth center or somewhere like that, sit beside somebody one day. Grab 2 coffee. Sit beside somebody someday. And just conversate. I understand where the fear comes from. I really do. I understand that when you see somebody twitching or talking to themselves or whatever, that can be a scary thing. That could be a really scary thing to see. But most of the time they're talking to themselves because nobody else is talking to them. Most of the time they're twitching because they're sick. You know what I mean? They're not there to cause harm. They're more harm to themselves than anybody. Yeah, you really got to be personable. You have to, and think to yourself, what would you want somebody to do if you were there? If that was you sitting there, what would you want somebody to do for you? And a lot of times a lot of them will just say, I would love somebody to just sit and talk. Real conversation, not all this busyness of the life they're living. And I mean, I tell you, the life they live, it's a daily race. It's a race every day, a race. Survival. They're always in survival mode. But for them to be able to be cheap, just for a little bit, to just have that little calmness for a little bit goes a long way, a long way.
Somebody heard about what we're going to do, and they're into survival stuff.
Fire starter.
They're fire starters, but it's also a mini stove.
Yes, that is so cool.
So, audience, you want to do your part, save these things, because they can become fishing, they can become first aids, and they can become stoves. They have donated a couple for you to let the guys try. If they're into it, they will make more.
Oh, awesome.
Okay.
Totally.
But guys, just, I know you're creative out there. Think outside the box. Just think outside the box. And then, Crystal, is there a way we can get a hold of you? Are you comfortable with that? Can we put your contact information in the description below, people?
Yes. Okay. Yes, definitely. Okay. You can put my information down below. For sure.
And then we're going to talk later on a bit more on tangible ways of reaching out. You had shared with me that some days you're committed in the daytime and you can't go to the frugal giveaways. You got time on your hands, people? You don't mind sitting and waiting for your car to be filled with food? Crystal would be glad to get the food for her guys.
Freezer space is limited though, ladies, unless you all want to put some in your freezer.
There you go. You got extra freezer space that you're willing to have stuff in. There's your part. Yeah, everybody does a part.
It's crazy because my house is totally taken over. But I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. But my freezer space is very limited.
Crystal, tangible ways that we can reach out. We talked about, maybe somebody affordability or whatever. I get that. I definitely get that. We've had seasons in our life, good seasons, bad seasons. Like if you do have food, if you do have finances, what about grocery gift cards so that you can do some shopping?
Fabulous. The gift cards go further than you think, because it seems when people donate, they tend to donate all of the same types of things.
Oh, yes.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yes, I do. There's only so much stuff you can eat of, like the beans.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
I have beans. Believe me, I have beans.
Beans. Craft dinner.
Not that I'm not grateful for them because my guys like beans and franks. Don't kid yourself.
Yeah.
But it's the franks. I get the beans, I don't get the franks, right? Or I get the pasta bags, but I don't get the sauce, right? Yes. So gift cards are excellent. Also, and people don't really think about dollar store cards.
Oh, yeah.
Dollar store cards are awesome because there's a lot of things I can get there. You know what I mean? For a lot less. Yeah. From not just the food, but the can openers, the gloves, the whatever it may be. There's just so many different the to-go containers because I go through them like mad. You know what I'm saying? Like there's just a lot of different things at the dollar store too that are very useful in what I do.
Right.
From the cutlery to candles is always a big thing. Batteries, because I get them flashlights or headlamps or what have you, right? So batteries is another big thing that I lack. Snacks is a huge thing because a lot of times what happens is I have guys that are on medication. Now, I supply one hot meal a day, right? But they have to take medication 3 times a day. So I always make sure they have something to take their medication with. So I go through snacks like crazy, whether it's fruit cups, granola bars. I try very hard to make sure there's healthy stuff in there, protein bars, Boost and Ensure, big deal. Okay, it's hard to come by for us, but when we do get it, it's a big thing because it's all the vitamins they need when they're only getting 1 meal a day. But it is expensive, and I don't expect everybody to just go out and buy Boost. Multivitamins, nobody thinks of that either. Multivitamins are great because these people, because they are constantly on the go, they get so weak. Just like I have one guy that is very low sodium. So I always make sure to get him the saltiest cracker I can find, you know what I mean? Just to keep up his sodium the best I can. And you know what I mean?
So Gatorade would be great.
Gatorade, yes,
Right.
yes, stuff like that. I mean, because you do acquire many medical conditions living the lifestyle, right?
Wow.
So
got to be extremely hard on a body.
oh, it's so hard, so hard. And you know, this is another thing. I always make sure they have a treat. I always make sure they got sugar.
Oh.
You know, the chocolate bar. I know it doesn't sound like a big deal, but I mean, like those pack of 10 little chocolate bars, I throw 2 of them in their snack bag. And that's like, sugar it keeps your body going, especially in the cold. When you're shivering, you need energy. You know yourselves, and I'm sure I'm not the only one here, but you know yourself, you can't sleep at night. What's the first thing you do?
Yeah. Fridge.
You eat.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're hungry and you're laying in bed, you can't sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So I always make sure they have a nighttime snack too, because if I know I'm the first one to go do a half a peanut butter sandwich, right? Because I can't sleep if my belly's growling, right? So I can't imagine being cold and hungry and not being able to sleep. I'm good on giving them snacks. I'll just say that. I make sure they have snacks for everything.
So I know that through a Gabriel community, you have requested sleeping bags sometimes, sometimes even a tent. You still needing that kind of stuff?
Right now, I'm good with tents and tarps for now.
Okay.
But come the warm weather, what happens is a lot of times what they have now gets flooded out. And becomes ripped. A lot of times, in the winters, the zippers on the tents don't last. Once they start to freeze and they're used repeatedly, they usually split. What I also have learned to do to make it more of a environmentally, I guess you'd say, better for everybody, is I will take an individual's blankets and replace them with blankets, take those blankets to the laundromat, do those blankets, and I'll only give them back their own blankets. They each have 2 sets, right? So I will take the set that is wet, I will give them dry, launder them, and switch them back out as necessary, right?
So you hearing? So put a counter on your counter, say your loonies and toonies for Crystal for the laundromat.
The lady at the laundromat's actually last year I was bringing in the spring, I had so many blankets that I was bringing in because we had like a really quick thaw and everybody was getting flooded out, and she would, I'd ask her for change and she'd just like put a big handful of change on the table,
I love Gabriel.
I love Gabriel.
I love Gabriel.
Can't beat it.
No, you cannot. You cannot. When you're watching and hearing just Crystal's call to Gabriel and the people answering, it's a beautiful thing, people. Can I be blatantly honest and say, what about hygiene products? Is there any hygiene products that you would like toothbrushes or toothpaste? You need to tell us what we need. We don't want to fill something that's not a need right now.
Well, I go through toilet paper a lot.
Yeah, I can imagine.
TP is a big thing. And toothpaste, toothbrushes. Here's mouthwash. Because a lot of them have bad teeth, it's hard to brush. So mouthwash is a really great thing, especially Listerine with the antiseptic in it, because I get people with abscesses and stuff that I try and help because I used to be a dental assistant, so I know a few tricks. So I try and help them in that retrospect. So mouthwash is a big thing. They don't like to carry a lot of stuff. I will say that they don't like to carry a lot of stuff. So shampoo, conditioner, body wash, if you can get 3-in-1, those are great. It's one bottle.
What about backpacks and stuff?
Yeah, I'm out of backpacks. We go through them like water.
Okay, there we go.
Because they break easily. They're not made like they used to. Everything's a disposable society now. Everything's made to be broken.
Everybody has a piece of the puzzle. Let's just make it we all belong.
Right.
We all own this. We all own this.
We should.
We should.
We should.
And on that note, let's talk about the question you get and we're going to be blatant here, audience, but the question you get about, well, we're supporting people coming out of country into our country. How does your guys feel about that? Do they have an opinion about that? And quite frankly, we're asking the wrong question, people, because the question we should be saying is, how can we reach more people? Everybody, not right. Who's the most important. That's it's not right. Them against us.
That's right.
We need to be accountable both ways. So how does that look for you guys? Are they feeling it?
Well, they do. They do feel it. And not in a way that you would think. It's not, they don't come off as prejudiced or racist or anything. They just don't understand why things are so at the fingertips for some and not for others. We all know that newcomers, when they're employed, the government pays part of the hourly wage for them. Now, what happens with people out of rehab? Why can't we extend that so that the employer doesn't think they're taking such a big risk? You know what I mean? It's stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Like, why can't we do the same for our vulnerable community? And that's a lot of times if you're in recovery, for example, and you go to get a job, the streets have been tough on them. So just their appearance alone, it gives them a hard time. Mm-hmm. And then if they had a program like that, the same program that they have for newcomers, it wouldn't, like I said, the employer wouldn't feel like they're taking such a big leap out of their own pocket, right? So they might be more inept to hire somebody in recovery. ID. It's so much easier for somebody coming in to get a proper ID than it is for our people on the street. And it's not the people coming in, it's not their fault. Yeah. It's our system. Yeah. It's the system. It has absolutely nothing to do with the race, where they came from, how far they've come. Nothing to do with that. It's the system that's not allowing equality for both. Mm-hmm. You know, what should apply to one should apply to the other, as far as I'm concerned. It shouldn't be segregated.
Mm-hmm. Good answer. So let's talk about medical. Obviously, they don't have medical. So do you get things like Tylenol donated to you, or stuff that, I mean, it's not going to fix it, but exactly. Like, you're wet, you're cold, you're hungry, and you're sore. Let's just put it all out there, people. Like, do you get donations like for things like Tylenol or stuff like that?
Once in a blue moon, I do.
Okay.
But I find more that I myself am supplying the Tylenol or the cold remedy or the cough syrup.
So to clarify, you usually cover it?
I do.
Okay.
If it's needed, I do, because I can't handle it. I can't handle somebody not feeling good.
I am hearing you, Krista. So here's another place you can get it. Maybe a pharmacy, people? A card for a pharmacy?
Yeah.
PharmaSave, whatever, a gift card?
Yeah.
So that it's not coming out of your pocket.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cough drops. That's a big thing too, especially like people who have quit anything, they get dry mouth. Right? And then they get that aggravating cough. So cough drops is another big thing. I know it doesn't sound like a big thing, but it's a big thing to some people.
I would like to know more about you personally. I know you've talked a little bit about your family. You must have wonderful support at home.
My children, because I do allow the homeless to come to my house. I'm not going to lie. They are more than welcome to come, because I have a Florida room, sunroom in the front of my house, and they are more than welcome to come and eat with me anytime. And my kids come in and out, and they treat them like family. I mean, I started them at a very young age, though, at understanding the difference and being grateful for what you have. And if you can help in any way, do it. Don't just talk about it, you know. So, but my family's very supportive. And I mean, I must say that the reason why I have the time to do what I do is a little backdrop on me is in 2014 I broke my back, and yeah, and I had 3 major back surgeries. Employment for me is not an option, so this is the way I help. Right? This is the way I help. If I can't do what I was, because I was a roofer, a heavy equipment operator, so I can't do that anymore. I was one of the first female roofers in Sudbury. My son has followed in my footsteps, which I'm quite proud. And when they ask him, where'd you get your skill? He says, my mama. So, that's really cool, right? But so yeah, I help by doing what I do. It doesn't take a lot of physical anything to sit and have a bowl of soup with somebody or a chat. When it comes to sorting donations and all that, I've got great family that helps me with all of that. More than willing to load the van and unload the van. There's a lot of load the van, unload the van, So yeah, I got a great support system that comes. If I have too much of something, it always goes to another outreach program. Because everything I do, I'm not government funded. I have nothing to do with anything. I like it that way. Because I don't like people telling me what to do, so to speak, in a good way.
You want the freedom.
I want
to
the
do what
freedom
you need to do.
What I do.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. Without the red tape.
Yes.
Right.
Now, you're not going to say it, but Crystal does have favor in the community because you've proved yourself faithful in the community.
I have some connections. I do. And I use them. I'm not going to lie. I use them when necessary. I use them because you know what? It's needed. When I call in a favor, it's because it's desperately needed. When I talk to people, if I know somebody at a specific organization and I know that person can help me, I am going to reach out. I am not going to be shy about it.
Good for you. You're their voice. I can see that.
Have to be.
Yeah, I can see that.
Have to be. I also have a lot of lovely women in this community that will call me up. Hey, I'm making a big pot of soup tonight. How many are we feeding? Stuff like that. So, I mean, this community rocks. Like, I can't even tell you enough how much this community rocks.
Yeah. I feel the same way. Yeah.
Spiritual guidance, you name it. It's out there. If I need it, all I have to do is ask and somebody will come through for me.
Wow.
If we had a homeless person right here with us right now, what would be the main message that they would want us to know?
They're human. They're human. Regardless of their hiccups, regardless of their addictions, regardless of their mental status, regardless of their financial status. We're human. We bleed the same. We all have hearts. We all have thoughts. And they just need to be treated that way, regardless of their appearance. They're human beings.
Crystal, I want to thank you. I have learned so much in this interview that I was unaware of. You've taught me, donations that I never ever thought about, like bringing in vitamins or cough drops or boosts. Those are things I would have never thought about. And you've given us like a ground level view on how to effectively reach out to the homeless. You've given us a laser shot into what their life is like. And I so appreciate your vulnerability. I appreciate your compassion, the love that is seen in you and is poured out on your family, your extended family. So thank you so much for coming on the show and just sharing your life with us. If you enjoyed hearing Crystal's story and you have one similar, or if you have questions, or if you want to make a donation, please look in our description below, or you can write us at recoveringyourvoice@gmail.com. But please, till the next time that we meet, keep sharing your story.
It was hard. The whole thing was hard. I'm not even
and I
gonna
know
lie
it
because
cost you. It cost you, but here's the thing, hon. You were their voice. You were their voice. You had the platform for them, and you did well. You were very faithful and did well.
Crystal, you handled that like a professional.
Oh, without a doubt.
No, honestly, it's like you had done it so many times before.
Okay. You remit. Should I have did my background blurred, guys?
I think it looks very real. I like it, especially with the topic we're doing.
Yeah.
Especially with what?
With the topic we're doing. I think you've got your big, looks like a big coffee maker and your kitchen in the back. And isn't this all about reality?
I can do this. I can definitely do this. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Bibbidi bobbidi boop 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 boop. Let's try that again.
So, oh wait. Oh, there's so much more on here.
Oh yeah, girl.
Oh my goodness, Colette, I thought you were going to keep it simple for me.
But it can see.
There it goes.
There, see?
Yeah. Wow.
I couldn't even talk about this yesterday, by the way. Like I was trying to, me and my daughter-in-law were doing the questions yesterday, and as soon as I started to talk about it, I started to cry.
It's okay. Okay, just a second.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Again, I say this, Bonnie edits. Clean up. We like to affectionately call it clean up on aisle 4 or 5.
I could write novels, ladies. Novels.